Mr. Speaker, sir, I had addressed this House on the issue of Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty on the 15th of July, setting out government's policies on this issue. The discussion that followed reflected the national consensus underlying the government policy. I am speaking today because of the new developments which honorable members are aware, the 45th test conducted by China on 29th of July. Several countries have issued statements expressing their varied points of view. Some of the leading ones, while regretting or even condemning the Chinese 45th nuclear test, have at the same time noted that after this test, China may join the other nuclear weapon states in observing a moratorium on nuclear explosive testing. On our part, we are dismayed by the nuclear tests carried out by the nuclear weapon states, particularly as the CTBT negotiations are in progress. We have always believed that these tests take the world further away from the goal of universal nuclear disarmament. As this House knows, since 1945, the 5 nuclear weapon states have carried out 2,047 tests. USA and Russia have conducted largest number, 1,032 and 715 respectively. France has conducted 210 tests, while China and UK have conducted 45 each. These tests have contributed to the nuclear arms race and shown that partial steps do not lead to nuclear disarmament. India has taken a consistent and principled position on nuclear disarmament. This is why, since 1954, when Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru called for a ban on nuclear weapons tests, we have urged that the CTBT must be seen as first step on the road to nuclear disarmament. The approach taken by India in the CTBT negotiations, therefore, calls for a genuinely comprehensive CTBT with a view to ending future developments of nuclear weapons, placing the CTBT in the framework of step-by-step process of nuclear disarmament, leading to the elimination of all nuclear weapons within a time-bound framework. Ongoing testing programs where the test sites are in laboratories are clear indications that nuclear weapon states are not willing to give up their reliance on the nuclear arsenals and consider CTBT merely as a non-proliferation measure. Such testing programs inevitably give rise to a question relating to India's national security. While we have adopted the policy of restraint after demonstrating our capability, we remain fully conscious of our evolving security situation. We are committed to taking all steps necessary to enable us to cope with any threat that may be posed to the security of India. As honorable members are aware, I was in Jakarta last week to attend the meeting of the ASEAN Regional Forum and the post-ministerial conference. There, I also had a number of bilateral meetings with foreign ministers from other countries present. Some of them, notably the US Secretary of State, Mr. Warren Christopher, Russian Foreign Minister, Mr. Primakov, Foreign Minister Ikeda of Japan, Foreign Minister Downer of Australia, and Canadian Foreign Minister Axworthy discussed with me CTBT negotiations at Geneva. I elucidated in clear terms the Indian point of view. I also highlighted the consistency in our policy as well as strength of conviction arising out of the national consensus. During the multilateral meetings, this subject came up. Many of our concerns were shared by the participants. These concerns were most clearly voiced by the chairman, Indonesia's Foreign Minister, Ali Altas, who appreciated India's principled stand both about the goal of achieving the nuclear weapon-free world as well as the need to ensure that CTBT brings an end to vertical proliferation. The CTBT negotiations have resumed in Geneva in the Conference on Disarmament Day before yesterday, the 29th July. Our stand in the negotiations is appreciated by many countries. Several non-aligned countries are in favor of strengthening the provision relating to scope, as also the reference to nuclear disarmament in the draft treaty text. They show understanding of our position, and in particular, they acknowledge that the present formulation of entry into force is without precedent in treaty negotiating practice. Yet, these countries find it difficult to accept our proposal to modify the draft treaty text because of rigid position by a small number of countries. In our statement and bilateral discussions, we have made it clear that India cannot sign the treaty in its present form. We have also made it equally clear that India cannot permit any language in the draft treaty text which imposes an obligation on India directly or indirectly. If there are attempts to push forward such a text, we will have to oppose such efforts. We continue to remain engaged in the negotiations in Geneva in order that our national interests are fully safeguarded. Thank you, sir.